If there is none, then I would, the committee report, traffic committee report. Brendan?
Traffic Commission met tonight at 7:15 p.m. with 5 items on the agenda. The first was a request for a no parking signage in front of the mailbox at 50. Next was a request for a crosswalk at 30 in Sanborn. This request was tabled. Available. Next was a request for north-south stop signs at 3rd and Lawler, and this was approved. Next, a request for stop signs to be placed at Douglas in South Main and Elm in South Main, and this request was approved. And the last request was for the closure of the 600 block of North Main on Tuesday, October 13th from 1:30 to 8 p.m. for the pod immunization training, and this was also approved. And we adjourned at approximately 7:40.
I would entertain a motion to approve the traffic report as presented. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Board of Adjustment, I would entertain a motion by the City Council to recess and sit as a Board of Adjustment.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Set date. Entertaining motion to set date for 10/5/15 for Board of Adjustment hearing as listed below. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. A hearing on the application of Tara Voleski for a backyard variance of 10 foot versus 25 foot and a front yard variance of 19.5 feet versus 25 feet for construction of a 4-unit family dwelling located at 404 Homer Court, legally described as Lot 19, Tract 1, Wild Oak Golf Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
Mayor and council members, the applicant is here, and so I'll let her speak to directly her, because I think some of the dimensions may be all changed or proposed to be changed, and I'll have her go through her proposed plan. However, I would just point out that there's some background information for you on or in your council packet, such as a aerial photo, plat, and also there's a revised site plan that the applicant had submitted. It's the one that's the one that's not drawn or blackened out. That's the one that the Planning Commission saw. The one that is blackened out has a lot more detail, and I'll let the applicant explain that as well.
Is it the same plan that the Planning Commission?
It's very similar, but a lot more detail.
Okay.
Yep, it says more additional detail. It has the easements drawn out, and it has more dimensions drawn out. But I'll let the applicant explain that. But that's the plan. Again, the Planning Commission did not see that one. They saw the other one that you saw.
We don't have this plan.
Yes, you do.
The same
We
plan
didn't,
that-
but now we do, right?
Yeah, you have it.
It's on the pack.
It's in there.
It's in the packet.
I didn't have it at first either. This is the first time I've seen this. I've
It's
looked through it 1,000 times. so-
After
Interesting.
the
Yeah,
Jamie and Nikki hire.
It could be Susan. She brought it in, I believe,
whatever day it was, yeah.
Friday after we had done the original packet. So if you had already downloaded the packet, it's not till it updates.
Oh,
So
okay, so it's there, yeah. Well, this is what it is, so I'll let her explain what it is.
Other than the additional detail, that is the same plan.
No, a little different, yep, it has some difference, but I'll let her explain that, the differences. But again, the Planning Commission did have a recommendation for you, and the minutes are there. And then I think what I'll do is I'll just yield the floor to the applicant, and then we'll just I'll fill in whatever else you need. So, and there may be other parties who wish to speak to it. So I'll let the applicant explain what she's doing, and then we'll go from there.
All right, thank you very much, and I really want to thank Neil and John Haig for being very, very patient, and they're the experts, and they've really helped me a lot too, because this is really new to me, and I've gone through so many different angles and plans and plots and colors and Anyway, oh, and Neil, if you could hand some out, I'm gonna give Susan.
Neil, I got one question before we get started while you're handing that out. If this has changed, doesn't this need to go back to the planning commission? Okay. I just didn't want to go through it and all of a sudden come to that conclusion.
Well, it's changed again because you guys, I want to get it done before the snow flies.
For me, like,
That is for you,
I get
pink.
That's it?
Yes, so, does it, you know what, I have another one. Okay, you guys can look at this, and then I will explain it. Because, and I've got a whole packet, I have studied this, I should get 3-hour credit hour on this. Anyway, online. Anyway, the original was, well, let's see, the original, we've cut back in feet quite a bit, because if you look at this, at the plot, first of all, it does qualify as a hardship. And what a hardship is the angle of the lot. And I've got, and you can look at it, the whole golf course. Most of the lots on the golf course are pretty square. They're probably 110 feet to 150 wide, and then they're pretty much rectangular. This one has like 7 sides if you count it. The one side is only a few feet, but anyway, I had to get, jump over a major hurdle because I was really worried about the planning commission at Wild Oak, and they're very strict and stringent as far as, if when you build out there, they've got very tough guidelines. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I just hope I can get through this meeting. And so I met with Jerry Klausman, and then he took it to the golf course commission. And, you have to have so many square feet and everything. So basically, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to wait a week to 2 weeks for them to get back to either approve it or deny it. Because honest to God, I didn't think they might even approve it because I did, challenge it. TIF with the owners of the golf course, extension of the TIF. But anyway, so the next morning I get a phone call from Jerry and he goes, hey, Tara, congratulations. Just wanted to let you know you passed and 100% behind you. And we're not only 100% behind you, we're also for the variance. And that's when the variance was more like 15 feet. So I'm like, wow, thank you. So I go to the planning commission and boom, knocked down. So I thought, okay. So I come back to the drawing board. And Mr. Putman and Mr. Haig sat down and said, well, look, we got a lot of sides here. And this side, which it used to be the side which is supposed to have been the back. We had it as the side, which meant, I was asking for, 15 feet or whatever.
Point to us where you're talking about.
Okay.
Can someone maybe?
Oh, I can come up here. How about if I come up here? It's a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, then you can understand it better. I can understand it better.
We can understand.
I got it down. It took a while. But anyway,
Do you want to see the?
this is the cul-de-sac right here, or do you want to? Oh, there we go. Perfect.
looks like?
Now I feel like a professor. Okay, anyway. Oh, yeah, can you go back?
This one?
There you go, perfect. Okay, this is Homer Court. Nice name. Okay, Homer Court, you come in. My building is at the end of the cul-de-sac, okay? So, it's a big cul-de-sac, and then this is fairway. This is fairway number 2, if you played out there, or the tee box, and then fairway, rough, fairway. And my neighbor to the west is the cul-de-sac, and then the golf course owns lots here that, well, right now is dirt piles, weeds, and trees. So there's nothing here. My neighbors to the east are, well, a golf cart path, and then quite a bit of land here, which is lots owned by the golf course, okay? So, and then my neighbors here are very nice people, D-walls. So I made sure the setbacks from my neighbors to the north were good. It's 7'6", you have to have 3 feet, okay? Because you want the 5-foot easement. You got the easement going all the way around here. And then, so here is where the screw up was. We had this as the back where, so we switched this around. This was technically is supposed to be the back. So now it's right. Front, back, side, 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 side. Okay, so here is where the variance is, and the property here is Mr. Lyman, and I bought the property from him, okay? So it's 22.5, and you have to have a 2-foot overhang, so it'd be 20.5. So I would need, what, 5.5 feet for variance over here. Now, what I did here, and I could still move it back and not need another variance, but I'm trying to be a good neighbor because the cart path here goes onto my property, okay? There was a mistake when they built the cart path, and I don't, you know, I could say, hey, move it, but I'm not going to, okay? I'll just charge a toll-free fee. Okay, so anyway, what I did was I just moved it over a little bit so I can have a little more room coming out of the garage, so I'm not going to be backing onto the cart path. So, look at this though. You got 7'6" here. Okay, now look at my side yard here. 50, what is it? I can't read that.
5210.
I mean, it doesn't even make sense. You know, usually if you're going to be, it's going to be kind of the same. And then you got this, 20, where I want my variance here, but right here off the building, what is that?
42.9.
Yeah, so if you even it out, I've got more than enough property. But the thing what kind of upset me with the planning commission was if the golf course committee is 100% behind me, and that's who it affects, I don't understand why, you know, you guys wouldn't be for me. I mean, it's good tax dollars. I did have 2 people say they're doing you a favor, because you're never going to rent them out. I don't believe that. But anyway, and then here, this goes out, it's almost like 40 feet, because I had my builder come out, and he goes, well, and then the guy I bought it from said, you're crazy, you don't even need a variance. If you listen to me, you just tilt it a little bit, you'd be fine. But here's the problem, safety issue too, that's another hardship. I want a wider driveway because this is really weird. I own this, but I don't own this, but I own like down here. But in this little area, I don't own. So I can't put my driveway there. So I want to make it wider, and that's why, you know, I kind of pushed it up. But I'm still good. But and then another thing, what I could have done is taken this is a rough here, and so you have to go off by the rough. But it doesn't. I'm still real good here. This is the problem here. But it shouldn't be a problem because nobody has a problem with it, and this shouldn't be a problem because nobody's got a problem with it. So I really don't have any neighbors, and nobody's going to build on the tee box or down the fairway or the rough. So, do you have any questions? But this is. Oh yeah, you can pull that one up.
Does anybody want to see the aerial?
Yeah. Okay, so, that's good. Okay, so here's my lot. Okay, and you see that this is a really weird lot too. And this is basically where the variance is. And nobody's going to, you know, they're going to build a house right here. I'm just asking for a little variance right here, 5.5 feet, okay? And then these lots, now, there were 3 complaints, okay? There was Bob and Jim Siebert. They don't even have a house. They're like, okay, can you go down? I'm here. They're like, which one?
Probably right there.
Where?
Right there, right up.
Right here?
I believe.
Okay, so I'm way back here, and they have a lot, they have no house. And then the other one is like right here, here's the green, here's the water, and here's my variance. Doesn't make sense. Okay, oh, and then here, okay, go down, and then I'm my neighbor right up here, and that's who I thought he brought all these people for, was to support me, Mr. Torgerson. I went over and visited with him the other night. And he said the planning commission knocked him down, so he went to the city council to build add a garage. He's right here on the golf course. I'm right, I'd be right. Or am I right here? Okay, probably about a 3 iron. Okay, so anyway, he said, yeah, but, so he's got a beautiful garage, no big deal. I mean, I don't know why anybody even would have a problem with it. But anyway, Lemoyne told me that you guys did a wonderful job and vote for it. I don't think Randy was on the board, darn it. I wish the other guy was on tonight. No, it was Travis Carpenter was the other guy. Randy? No, that's good for you. Anyway, I think Travis Carpenter was the other guy, and he lives, where's he live? Right here. Okay, so he voted for it. I know he voted for me too. So.
Neil, can you just recap again on, okay, what was originally presented to the planning commission, and then
All right, I will.
what you had.
I'm going to try to be fair on both sides with this as well. If you look to the plot plan, can you find the one that, yeah, the one that the planning commission saw? Okay, now, if you take a look at, that's what they had before them.
Okay.
So if you take about, this was the plan that was submitted, so when we did the publication, that's how we came about it. So that's why if you read the front yard at 19.5, we rounded it because she's got 21.7 on there and minus the 2-foot overhang. So that's how we come up with the 19.5 because we can measure from overhang. So that's how the front was, okay? So we're still there as well. And then again, the easement wasn't identified for the planning commission, and so that's why that 5.6 is actually, there's a 5-foot easement that has to be there, so that's come back down a little bit. Right. So that's one of the things that was there.
The easement counts as part of the setback.
Correct. But it wasn't identified for the planning commission, so now it's at 7.6, which accounts for the 5-foot easement. Now,
So that's good, that
yeah,
corner's fine.
yep, that corner. So that would have been the tightest one if you were going to do a side yard setback on the north side. Then that's where that issue would have been, but it's been resolved because the easement's already taken care of it and there. So the issue came kind of in the back. Again, this plan doesn't have as near the detail as the second one. So you so where you see where the car, so to speak, is drawn there, if you drew a straight line, and one could argue, I could see where they might think and when I advertise these, I always kind of be the most, I'm trying to think the best word to say, the most liberal with these so that it gives them more flexibility, because if you advertise it too tight, then you're there, especially on irregular lots. There's always a debate, what is the front and what is the back? Well, if you do a straight line to where, Ms. Valesky, could you do me a favor, put your pointer right there and just draw a straight line across? Yeah, you could almost say that that's the backyard that way. So, and then what I did is on her plan that it says 12.2, we knocked off if you wanted to argue that was, if you wanted to say that was the backyard, I took the 10 feet minus the 2 feet overhang, and that's how I came up with it. So that's what the planning commission saw. And obviously they, then they made their own judgment call, which the minutes speak for themselves, so that was, I don't know if that helped how we did that.
State the considerations that the planning commission
Well, a couple,
based their determination on.
I'm going to try to paraphrase, Carl was at the meeting as well, and I'm going to try to paraphrase some of the issues that came up there as well, and I think she is one. one of the issues that they come up with is this is zoned R4, so it can do both single-family and multifamily, again, assuming it fits. So it's, you know, you could as well. Some of the issues that came up with, again, is recognizing that it could possibly be modified because it is an odd-shaped lot. You know, like you said, you possibly could tip it some way, tilt it. That's probably the best, saying. They also, too, that some of them was, again, tilted slightly, and then it perhaps could have met some of the setbacks without a variance. Again, it could have, but again, you know, that's not the application. So, but that was kind of the paraphrasing some of the things that the Planning Commission probably, that we heard in their conversations of why they were concerned with it. And again, you saw the minutes, how they voted.
I think as I recall being at the meeting,
Yeah.
they stated that design something that fits.
Yeah.
That fits. Okay, I mean, how do you know though, when you go in and get something designed? And when I bought the lot, it's 4R4, and see, these are 2-story. I mean, can you imagine if I designed one with a 1-story? It'd come out to here.
And the issue was whether or not a hardship existed.
Yes.
Yes,
And
legally, it does. Because if you look at, I'll show you, because if you look at the other lot, it points, well, this other lot, it comes in and it just, it's like a triangle. And here is like okay. Yeah, I mean, look at here. This is even to me, a hardship because it goes down like this. And there's no way they can use anything down here. So that's why the variance shouldn't be a problem right here, because whoever builds here, look at how far it is to here.
So did the
planning commission see this one?
The second one, no.
No.
One that we're looking at tonight?
Correct. The one that's shaded in, no. The one that I just showed you, that's the one the planning
Well,
commission said.
Kind of,
Kind of.
yes, they did. I'll tell you what. But here's the problem.
It did.
They had this, we had this as the back. And this is supposed to be the back. Okay?
So that makes the difference.
Yeah,
in
that
what
makes
you
all the
require.
difference. So this is good now, because
So are
you
you
only
saying
need
that
3 feet.
Would you have not even had to have gone to the planning commission?
Well,
or
oh no,
you
she still would have had to.
Yeah, I see still.
Is it 2.5 feet, or is it 5.5 feet, or is it 5 feet?
It'd be 3.5 feet plus the
Right.
opening.
She has to, the code would require a side yard setback of 5 feet. But again, she's already has an easement that she has to eat up 5 feet in the easement anyway.
And then we make sure,
If you're,
thanks to
right,
Neil.
if the determination is that where she has indicated as side is the side, then it's a 5 feet setback and
This is
there.
35.
Right. If the determination is the back of the building per se is the backyard, that's where we came up with the 10. So I guess it's a question of what you're, you know,
if
interpret.
you're tending towards thinking the planning should look at it again, I
No.
think
I'd rather they
in
not.
the perspective of the city council's option.
I know, here's the deal too. Okay, I got a big problem. I've got all these people waiting to build. I mean, and it's all local. I mean, all my contractors, from cement to electrical to plumbing to roofing to, you know, building, materials, everyone is local. And it is, what is it, October, no, it's September what? 21st, okay? And I just want to build it and pay property taxes. You know, I love paying property taxes. And golf courses will be a lot of property taxes.
So Neil, we're really looking at the side setback.
Well, if you, right, yeah, I
The
guess
side
if that's what you
setback
want to
is
say,
Right next to the golf.
right, if you want to, if you're determining,
I have more than enough
is the one that
variance here. I mean, not a variance, 3 feet
What's that?
I need, I got 10
Here,
foot.
hold on, Tara, what's that?
The side one is the one that would still have a variance need?
That's
no,
correct.
if you determine that that is the side, but you still would need a backyard one in the back, but you wouldn't need it as a 10, it would be whatever, right,
It's 20, what is it, 20?
Yeah.
22.5 or
Minus-
You gotta take
5
two, you also have to add 2 feet for the.
overhang.
4.5 feet.
And that is, that's, you know, stated on there.
So,
But, you know, it's like, and we drew all the lines. And, you know.
Well, this is my concern. My concern is that we're going to have people going to the planning commission. They're going to be denied or whatever, and then they're going to come to us with a new plan. So I understand your desire to build, but if the planning commission has not looked at this specific plan, then I don't think we should either. I don't think we should deny the variance. I think we should send it back to the planning commission. They make their decision, and then we act on it. I just,
So I can't build it this winter, then, this fall, over a couple feet.
2
Here's the
weeks,
deal.
2 weeks?
Okay, but here, okay, we'll go back to the original then. Okay, we approve that. It's basically the same thing. The only difference, Mel, is the yards. The footage is the same. It's the side
Right.
yard and the front.
I understand what you're saying, but here's the problem I have from the city council. We have a planning commission that looks at these things, and then we have to decide if we're going to override them. We've got to have some sort of, criteria to do that. And that's fine if we want to do that, but I do not want to get started, every person who's denied at the planning commission, to come to the city council with a new plan, no matter how minor the difference is.
It really is, it's just more numbers.
Okay, has the planning commission looked at this specific drawing?
Pretty much.
Have they looked at this specific
Yes,
drawing?
Yes, but the
So this is what they
difference is
denied.
side and the backyard.
So this is what they
The
denied.
footage is pretty much the same.
I'm not asking if it's pretty much the same. I'm asking if this specific drawing was looked at by the planning commission. And the answer, I think, is no.
Okay, so what if I say they're gonna deny this? They're gonna deny it. I know they're gonna deny
That's
it.
the plan that was presented to the planning commission.
Correct.
The other one is the one that was not.
Why did they deny it?
That's a very good question. That's what here's
I'm just curious, just a sec, I'm just curious, because we've given 0-foot variances, we've approved. This is 5 feet,
This is
5.5?
one of the, I
I'm just
wasn't
curious
able,
why they refused.
I wasn't able to attend the last planning committee meeting, but what they've done before, and we have granted 2 variances already for new builds. A lot of this is new builds, when they were looking at, that's what they told me, new builds. If you're gonna buy property, and you should have a plan of what you're gonna put on it. Not,
Well, then
all
maybe
of a sudden
Mr.
go after.
Ferguson shouldn't have gotten a variance, because that was a new bill.
I'm not gonna argue with Derek, because we've had our long
Well, I'm just
discussion.
saying, all
But
I
this is the
want
big
to be
thing.
fair.
It's a new build,
Asking for fairness.
and that's what the problem I have, is that pretty soon the committee's gonna say, well, we don't need to even look at anything. And
Neil, when this went, if I'm understanding you right, when this went to, this was labeled the back, and these were the front and the sides, correct?
Yeah, that's what they saw.
Right. They're not labeled. That's what I'm trying to get at. They're not labeled.
Right.
So
So,
what was the front on this drawing?
yes.
Right there, Homer Court.
Front was.
Okay, where was back at?
The back is, I considered,
Where was the side?
yeah, is the back, because that's the only number they had, was that 12 number. That's the only number they had. And so and then you take the 2 feet overhang off, then it's 10 feet. That's where we came up with it. But I'm not saying that's your interpretation, and then if you drew a straight line, that's how we did it, so.
And I have a problem with approving this if the planning commission hadn't seen it. I'd like to see it go back to it. If they approve
They're
it,
gonna deny it, I know they will.
well, I don't know.
Well, if they were labeled the way if they're labeled the way this is on the sheet,
They will deny me.
if they're labeled the way this is said that is, and it's labeled correctly on this sheet from what I understand, front, back is always straight across, and you got your sides. Is this structure on this property probably the way I'd build it, but this is none of my personal business. She can build it any way she wants on front, back, and side. It's labeled the correct way, and it sounds like you just moved it forward 2 feet and came over to the side a little bit. I mean, I don't know where I'm going yet right now with this, besides, you got a lot that
It's a hardship.
I can't believe they even put it like this.
Exactly. That's it. That's the way. There should be a slam dunk.
Let me invite the council briefly. I went to the meeting, and the considerations considered by the planning commission, one was that there's a multitude of designs that could fit this particular lot. If you design something to build a lot, to fit the lot without variance. It could be tilted slightly, and then that could be a 1, 2, 3, or 4. But it could be designed to, because it's new build, I think Councilman must have pointed that out quite well. This could be tilted slightly, tilted to align with the lot a little bit better, and that would eliminate the need for variances.
All I'm saying
And that, with these remedies, there was no hardship. There was no hardship. You could build and utilize the property in any number of ways.
So you don't think this is a hardship, really? I mean, then it should, the line should go like this.
You're just reporting.
Yeah, right, that's what they said. They said, I make a motion to not approve because it's not a hardship. But I'm arguing it is a big hardship, major hardship. Because I did all the legal legalities to this. And that's where it's a hardship. And you know what? It's cost me a lot of pain something. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. If there should be no opposition to the board, if there's no opposition to my immediate neighbors, which is, you know, the tee box, the rug, the golf course owning it, the golf course owns that, and they're all for me. And then you guys, I mean, you know, I'm all for, you know, letting, whatever. Okay, that's it, but, wow.
I think they, you know, we have this discussion numerous times about planning commission, the variances. And I think we got, you know, we have a planning commission for a reason. But we also have, quite honestly, I think there's inconsistencies in which variances get approved and which ones don't. And I think that creates problems for our citizens. And then to us, because I hate overriding planning commission. I really do. That's what they're there for. So somehow, my only complaint on this one, or is that we have nothing to stand on. It's just whatever the individual case-by-case basis, and how do they judge fairness, merit, all that on a case-by-case basis. I think that's very tough. That puts then the burden back on us.
Okay, and I did my homework. Here's a pile of variances that have been overridden. And there are other variances by the Planning Commission that they passed that aren't even close to what I'm asking for. We're talking, you know, 22 feet. Oh, I do, because that's fairness. Exactly, but if you look, if you study all these variances, I mean, it's total unfairness.
Can you give us some examples?
I can, I don't want to embarrass anybody. I can, yes, I can. I'll tell you what, you can read these two right here. Well, I don't want to name names, okay? But I can.
The other one that's.
Do you want me to name some names? Do you want me to name some names?
No, that's.
I sure can. I mean, that's open,
It's your pleasure, folks.
record.
Well, let me ask.
I can read them right here.
Go, Jeff.
The other thing that comes into play with this particular lot is the cart path that encroaches onto her land. And so as a result, you know, as she pointed out, she could go back to the owners and say, remove that, but yet she's gonna try to position onto the lot as it was sold to her. And so I really feel that is another item to take into consideration as we're discussing this.
So you own the cart path, so you could move that back if you wanted to. You don't want to, I understand it.
I don't want to get into the law. I
No, I understand, and I don't blame you.
I mean, I can't.
So the mess up you're saying is maybe another hardship.
You guys want.
Well, that's the way I look at it, and what I would like to see, if you're okay, Mayor, is see if there's any other people that want to maybe relay their thoughts on this, if there's neighbors here tonight, that maybe we can.
Is there anyone here that can?
They park that on golf course property so that somebody hits the car,
Because it's gonna cost a lot of
falls
money.
over and breaks their leg, it's on the golf course property.
Yeah, that's not our concern.
Is there anyone in the audience that's for it or against it?
Pardon?
I'm asking
For additional.
for additional comments from other people in the audience, if there's anyone for it or against it.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to go with that.
Bob Siebert, my brother and I own the lot just down to the south of Hearst. The fact that you used my family's name as a punchline disgusts me. And the fact that I don't have a house on that lot yet when I retire is none of your business. I pay the same taxes as you do on the same value as you do. At the end of the day, Neil, Bill and I have no problem with the variance. So just, I wanted that to be on record, so when it goes back, when it goes back to
Yes,
planning.
stop it, yeah, drop it.
You're the ones that complain. Why can't I use your name?
He just,
Sarah, he just said
he just said he's okay with your variance.
I would leave it alone.
When it goes back to planning, we're okay with it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, it really upsets me when people won't take yes for an answer.
And the other thing that, and I don't know whose fault this would be, is we are running out of the time for construction. If you really do want to start it, then we all know where the housing is in Mitchell, as far as 1 to 4 family. But I wasn't at the commission meeting, but again, Randy, did you happen
I
to be
wasn't
there?
able to make that.
Okay, and Neil wasn't, Carl, but what was the discussion on the hardship? Maybe Neil, if you want.
That they, unanimous decision that there was no basis for a hardship.
Because it was new construction?
Yeah, that they could be redesigned, reconfigured.
Yeah, I think he pretty much paraphrased it. Again, and, you know, looking at it as, I think part of it was that they felt that it could be, try to make it fit. And I think, I'm trying to be fair with what they were trying to think, but that was kind of their impression. And obviously, they didn't feel that it met the criteria.
Well, if it wasn't getting so close to the end of the construction year, I really would like to have the planning commission take a look at the new one to see. I talked to one commissioner and said that he's in favor of the new plan. Now, that's just one, but I can't speak on behalf of anybody else. And I'm assuming that they are scheduled for next Monday to meet. Is that right, Neil? So I'm a little torn.
Right. But, and then once again, we can't assume, but I would assume that they're going to deny it, means they're saying there's no hardship, even though she's moved it, but she's still not satisfying the setback over here. I don't see why they would change what they're recommending to us, because she still has a problem, and they're saying there's no hardship, so why would they change their vote? I don't see it, so it's gonna, if you come back to us with the same answer, denied, then we're in the same spot we're in right now. So if you're not in favor of approving this one, I'll guarantee you're not in favor of approving the one in 2 weeks. Because you'll be in the same boat the planning commission's in.
Neil, you're still confident, though, that we can act upon the one that was being shuffled around?
Well, again, it's fairly close to what you were proposing. Again, it's a question of is if you're going to call this back and the side. That's kind of the question. And again, you know, you got to look at it from what the planning commission, they deal with the plan that they had that was submitted to them. And so that's thing is out of out of fairness for the planning commission, that's why they came up with the 12.2 minus 2-foot overhang. That's how they came up with it, because that's the only number we have at that time. And so it doesn't look like, I don't believe the front's changed the same. I believe it's exactly the same. The front is the same, 21 plus or minus, there. So I don't know. I guess that's your call,
One way to look
So
at
you
this,
did shift this on the property?
Just,
Actually, yeah, because of in the back, brought it down a little bit because of, Neil said
well, instead of the 5.6, right, it says up there on the 5.6 on the top, it is now 7.6 because there's a 5-foot easement, so that moved it down.
And I feel like there are a lot of factors that come into play. I think that the cart path is a big factor. I feel like there are a lot of things that we need to take into consideration. And in my opinion, I think this does qualify as a hardship, so I'm going to move for approval.
I'm going to second you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Oh, just a
Hang
second,
on.
just a second. Are we voting on the first or the second?
Second.
The second
The
plan.
second plan.
The latest one.
Second
yeah.
plan.
Well,
I think the plan that has to come to the city is the plan that was looked at.
That's right.
And so this is a proposed modification offered to the city council that modifies actual plan that comes.
Yes.
And that does happen.
right.
So your motion is made on Plan 2.
Yeah.
And I'm going to echo the fact of Tara buying this lot. She has a hardship issue, the fact that there's a piece of property on her lot that she could easily move with the former owners. She's looking to work with them and then not have them dig up their portion of it. From what I understand, the Wild Oak is on board with this, which own it. We just had a neighbor that just came up here and also spoke that he's in favor of it, that owns property right around her. I don't see a lot of opposition. Obviously, we had a denial from the planning commission based on a hardship. I think there is a hardship here, like I said, by where the cart path is, the irregularity in the lot, for one thing. Once again, it's not my say who buys these lots, but Tara did, and she wants to put something up here that's going to be a good thing for the community. It's going to be on taxpayer base. I don't think if we help out with Tara with this lot may stay empty for quite some time. And I think it's a good thing to get on our tax roll. Tara's willing to develop it and move forward with it, and I'm going to move along with supporting you and in favor of this. So.
And I would just add that, I thought Jeff and Marty and Susan had good points, and I will be voting for this, but I will be voting for the original that was denied, because that's the only thing that's before this council that's official. She could present whatever plan she wants to, and if she goes through with this plan, that's great. But what we're voting on, and everybody should be clear, is we are voting on the original denial. That is the only official action before this council. She could, bring a plan to build a 10-story building. It wouldn't matter. The only official thing we have, and when you vote, you should know that, is the original denial on the original drawing. So if we vote for this, and again, I'm going to, she can put that original one up if she wants to, because that's what we're voting on.
I'm good with it.
Okay. She's good with it.
We're going to have a new motion then for Plan 1.
I will amend my motion to be for plan. Well, are you okay with seconding that?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Carried.
Thank you.
Reconvene as city council. I would entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the city council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Set a date for the election on the referendum petition.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I would like to propose the general election of November 2016, and this is why. If we have a special election, it's going to cost us money. And if you want the pool to have an opportunity to pass, it needs to be at the general election. Because if you have a special election, really the only people who are passionately for this is the swim team and their family. There are lots of people who, you know, think it might be a nice thing or whatever. And there's a number of people who are passionately against. And in special elections, you get the passionate people out. And I think if we're going to spend this kind of money, we should have a mandate one way or the other from the people who are going to vote. 2016 is a presidential election. It's going to have a much bigger turnout. I think we'll have a much better idea of what the public wants, either for or against. So I'm going to move that we set the referendum for November of 2016 with the presidential election.
Yeah, that's when it will be set unless a special election date is set. Yep, it's at the next annual municipal election or the next general election, whichever is earlier. And there's not a municipal election scheduled for next year.
Was that a motion?
Well, I don't want to cut off any public input, but I think there needs to be a positive statement by this council, one way or the other. Either we're going to set the earliest possible election with a special election, and, you know, if it passes, get underway, and if it's defeated, then spend the money on something else. Or we need to, I think, say, this is why we're doing it at the general election, not just because we don't have an opinion one way or the other, but we can do whatever we want.
And you did make that motion, correct?
Well, we might be swayed by public input.
Yeah,
You need-
that's
you
what I
need
was
a
thinking.
second
Now
on
is I
the
decided to hear
discussion.
some more. You made a motion, but I'm like, no, there's zero discussion yet. That's the only reason why I'm like,
Steve Harms?
Send your motion or do we have?
I think Steve has a comment he wants.
Well,
to
I'd give a
make.
second for discussion.
Second for discussion, okay.
That's what I was saying. Out of respect, I'll even do that.
Steve Harms, I'm in favor of the 2016, but my reason for wanting it is it gives more people a chance to work on it and see if they can get it passed. I'm all in favor of it. What I would like to see happen, and I don't know if the city council, what they've passed, if that can be changed or not, but I would like to see it expanded a little more. I'd like it to become something that's a draw to all the small towns. You'd put the slide in, put the other stuff in. You would have all the small towns around here with nothing to do in the wintertime. You could draw them all in to help support this. I really believe that we might possibly be smart to look at spending a little more and get it to where we can draw more people. Make Mitchell a designation.
Destination.
Huh?
Destination.
Destination, okay. And that's all I had to say, but thank you.
Steve.
I'm Ed Potzler. Hours late, I understand that. I had 4 items, I'll reduce it to 1. I was one of the petitioners, passed the petition around, and one of the comments I had is they hoped it wouldn't go to a special election. First of all, for the cost. Second of all, for the fact that it doesn't have the option of having absentee ballots. So you're not really getting the will of the people. You are getting the people who are willing to come out on one day and support it. I think this is too important of an issue. I feel that the last mayor made a promise to the people of Mitchell, and it wasn't kept, and that was to get public input on this pool. I am very much in agreement with the prior person who talked that if we build something and the people really want it, it should be something that the people have had input on. The committee that was adjourned or created by the past mayor had 2 people from the Mitchell Aquatic Club on it. Nobody on it from who the present swimmers are. And I found that kind of sad. I volunteered to be on it because I swim every day. I know what the people want there. I wanted to make a great pool. There were 2 words that I remember, cold and hell, but nobody that had volunteered to be in that committee was selected. And they were all swimmers that used the pool every day. I realize that by putting this election off, we have money sitting there that we're paying interest on. But at the same time, I would like to see, if it goes ahead, that we get the pool that we need. And that's going to take planning. That the current plan, which includes $165,000 in it for competitive equipment, while the $150,000 slide was removed, that concerns me a little bit. But there was really no public debate, no public input on what you people voted on. And if given a 2016 vote date, I would hope that there would be public discussion on the pool and that people could vote on this in a general election where you would have absentee ballots and the true will of the people. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed.
Ryan Huber, I want to thank you again for keeping me here later than before. But now that the circus is over, I just was doing some quick math. I think it costs you guys roughly $9,000 a month in interest expense on your $4.8 million worth of bonds. So on 14 months from now, if we wait till the next general election, Mel, that's going to cost us $126,000 to keep bonds sitting there doing nothing. I know it's going to cost anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 to do a special election, and so I would like to see us do a special election. I think the taxpayers of Mitchell deserves that, to spend $10,000 to save $126 to get an answer one way or another. And I know from the Mitchell Aquatic Club's perspective, you know, I've used this pun here before, but I'm going to do it again. We can't hold our breath for 14 more months before we have a decision on this. So I respectfully disagree with pushing it off until November of 16. I'd like to see us do the special election, but I don't want to necessarily do it next month or November, just simply because that doesn't give an opportunity for, like what Ed talked about, of giving some public input. I'd like to recommend something in January, February, or maybe even early March, but I'm thinking somewhere in February that gives us 4 or 5 months to have some debates about it if you'd like. Gives our media outlets time to talk to people about it. I just think that if we do it in February, like February 1, for example, it will cut down on the amount of interest expense that we're paying as a city and saving us quite a bit, and then we can get a decision and move on one way or another. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan brings up a good point, and I'm sure it's state statute that we have to follow. What is the number of days? Stephanie, did you look at it?
30, isn't it?
I have it. It's not sooner than 30 days after you order a decision.
Okay. And is it 30 to 60? If I look up the rate?
It can be any time, not sooner than 30 days.
Not sooner than 30 days, but you can have any date that we select in the future.
Right.
It doesn't have to be on a Tuesday.
It does have to be on a Tuesday. And one option is hosting it with the primary election in June, which we'd have some shared costs that would be moved up somewhat from the general election.
Is
That's
there
just
absentee
another.
ballots? Is there absentee ballots in the
There
primary?
is.
There is absentee ballots in any special election, even if it's held in November. I confirm that with the Secretary of State's office. We're required to do absentee ballots at least 15 days prior to the election.
Regardless of special election, general election, primary election, absentee ballots only.
Yes.
I questioned that too, and she called and verified it, so yeah, it's special elections. You can do absentee voting.
I think the idea is we give the people of Mitchell the opportunity to vote. That's why we've done this. I think, quite honestly, we've said all along, it's just, the people need to decide.
I'm sorry, Jeff. What I'm gonna echo is, I agree with this, the interest that we're spending. That bothers me the most out of all this, that we'd spend 120, whatever, over $100,000 in interest the next year because the petition came through, we got referred, fine, that's what it is. My concern about is trying to wait for that long is obviously the money that we're gonna spend, I think we need to get down to what we're gonna do with the taxpayers' money. Are we building this pool that they want or don't want? And if they're not, what are we going to do with it? Because if not, then let's go pay off some debt or something. We can't just sit here and keep on paying interest and stuff like that. So we need to get to an answer. So what I'm moving at is we need to do a special election. My next concern that I do have is waiting until June to do it with that, is the fact is that if we do June, I think we all know, we're not letting no bids out in June unless you want to pay the highest rate ever, because I know construction. So if we're going to do this, we need to get this going sooner, because if we're going to do any bid letting, and maybe Tim, you want to come up here, but what is the best time to do bid letting? Because I know it isn't in June. You know, so, and I'm not saying you know the answer, but you know what I'm getting at. We need to get to a point where we want to get ahead of all the contractors so they can give us the best bang for our buck to get this pool done and get everything we want. I also do echo some of the concern of the people out here about the pool maybe needs to be looked at a little bit to maybe get back into family orientated kind of entertainment in there. Maybe the slide was not a good idea to maybe try to take out. That's something we can work on, but we got to find out what do we need to do with these taxpayers' monies and find out the answer. Are we doing a pool or not a pool? And I think we need to get going sooner than later on an answer from the public.
Steve, do you have an additional comment?
Just a question. I know nothing about bonds, but is there any way that that can be applied to something we currently are building instead of just letting it sit there?
Well, if you do, you spent the money and it's not available for the pool.
Pardon me?
If you do, then you've spent the money and it's not available.
It is
for the pool.
gone.
In all reality, Steve, the way it's right now, the way the ordinance is written, is the fact that we approved it for that, and now it's being referred. So we can't do anything until an election, either free up the money, or if it's voted in to use for the purpose. So it's stalled right now. And so that's why I feel a special election would be better, because then at that point in time, we know what direction the city we can go. If we wait, and being a good banker like Ryan is, I did the same thing. My number I came up with was $9,120 of interest that we are paying each month. We already have our special election paid for every month that goes by. And then that frees up the cash that we can either use, citizens say pool or something else, then we can either pay debt off, or we can look at another project that citizens would approve. But at this point in time, it's stalled. It has to sit right there until a decision is made.
That's also my concern. If we push it to November election, we go through the entire next budget cycle without having any of that money available. And so then there's no, it wouldn't be in the 2017 budget, that whether it's $2 million sitting there, whatever, that couldn't be spent in 2017 because we can't budget it in 2017 if the election hasn't been held and we have to pass the 2017 budget by the end of September.
Stephanie has something that she needs
So
to say.
And my point was going to be just that, Steve, that in the resolution, it stated where the funding of the pool was coming from. Some of that is from bond funds. Some of it is from general fund dollars and reserve as well.
And so we'd
And
have
so
to
all
carry
of that
that.
money is tied up. My one thing that I just want to caution the council on is that if you remember during our budget discussions, we had a number of capital projects that have been brought to your attention that we need to address over the next 3 to 5 years. City Hall being one, where we're going with phase 2 of the Corn Palace. We have the repairs that are noted for the rec center. And not only does this delaying it put on hold those people both in support of the pool and opposed to the pool, it also puts the city at a standstill on what are we going to do next. And like you said, then we're going to miss the next budget cycle. Now everything that we've just pushed out of the 2016 budget so that we could start having planning sessions before the next budget, we're now 2 years out. So I just want to make sure that that point is made. And then the other thing just to keep in mind is the mayor and I were at a first-class municipality meeting, and I don't remember what Yvonne said at the time, but there was more than 12 ballot issues being circulated at the time. And the concern that a lot of the cities were talking about at that time is that if you have another special item on a ballot in November when there's already 13 different ballot issues on there where the cities is last, are people going to get maybe frustrated going through all these special items and not even see ours at the bottom? So that was one cautionary thing that the municipalities were talking about at our first-class mayor's meeting we were at as well. So those are my only considerations for your discussion.
Well, I'm not opposed to a special election because I think that'll free up more than 120,000. I think it'll free up $8.5 million because you'll have the committed people coming out. But the one thing that we cannot do is schedule it in February in the dead of winter. That's just the same as saying you don't want people to vote. I mean, if we're going to do this, it should be done this November, if you're interested in scheduling a special election.
The only question or concern I got with that, Mel, is a lot of speakers that came up indicated that there's probably more planning that needs to happen. There's education that probably needs to take place. Maybe public forums of people wanting to bring in maybe their suggestions to come. And then Marty concluded with the construction costs. And as far as I'm concerned, whenever we do it, if people want to vote, they're going to find a way to get out. I know the dead of winter is probably not. We've had elections in November that have snowed, and I make a point of going on election day just because that's what I feel is important. And it seems like there's always people that do find their way to get out. So I think Ryan brings up a very good point of, I think we need to really walk through this as quickly as we can, but still leave time to make for sure everybody has input, and Ed says the same thing. I know we've got a motion on the table, but to be quite honest with you, where I'm leaning toward is the first Tuesday in February.
Why not make it April or March? When if weather's a concern, let's get out of the winter.
To me, weather's not a concern, I guess. But
Well, I've heard it several times, quite honestly.
Have you?
So,
Mayor, may I address the council just 1 minute, 30 seconds?
Before Carl, I'll just withdraw my motion.
Okay, be cognizant that the bond, I understand that money is fungible. Everybody knows what fungible means. The bond funds, by the reallocation back to meet the 3-year rule, have all been deemed to be spent, and the money will have to come back from those various funds that the reallocation was to. Other than that, beyond that consideration, I don't know what the implications of that are.
Where we move it from fund to fund is still an issue that we can't get by in the 2017 budget if we have the election in November.
I'd go ahead and agree with Jeff too about the first Tuesday in February. They're gonna vote. They'll find a way there. And I've seen 1st of February is nice weather, and I've seen the 1st of November snowstorm. So what's the difference? They'll still be there.
Yep.
it is.
They won't-
Senior,
they
that's
won't
what I
go
found
out.
out, the elderly voters.
Ed?
Yes, Ed Potzer again. February, let's be a little rational. That's the dead of winter. A lot of the people who want to vote on this, a lot of the people who signed the petition, a lot of the people that you represent are elderly. They're not going to come out in a snowstorm. I commend Jeff that he would. I might, because I'm on one end of a special interest group. I'm sure the Mitchell Aquatic Club would come out. But let's not make it impossible for people to vote. There is some rationale. That's why national elections are held in November or in June for weather reasons. My point is, we want the maximum people to vote on this, or at least I do. I want the maximum people, and February is not going to do that. Thank you.
No matter when the election is held, Palace Transit is willing to provide free rides to the polls for any member of the public.
And that's nice, but a number of seniors are going to be in Arizona and Florida. And so I don't think February is a reasonable date. I think if we set February as a date, we're basically saying we're not interested in what people think. I really think, it either has to be if we want to move it up, it either has to be this November, before the holidays and before the snow flies, or taking Dave's idea, a date in April, which would achieve the same purpose. But, you know, politically, you're just going to get flayed alive for putting it in the dead of winter in February.
So what about December? I mean, okay, I'm looking at our options, that's all I'm trying to do. Yeah, okay. No to December.
Then where the council goes here, and then we vote. If it's gonna be November, we need to go as late as possible in November, give them time for debate and public input and everything else. I mean, right away, my date jumped out at December 6th, which is not holidays by any means yet. But, you know, but wherever, I don't, it just, we're gonna go early. I'm not in big support of April just because the fact of if it gets approved or not. I'm telling you, people, we've proven that it's probably not gonna get done here. And if you do let out bids in April or May, you're gonna pay the highest dollar possible. And that's something that we've went away from that. We've changed our thought process lately of when we try to let bids out, and we've seen our lower bids in because of the way the department heads have changed up their thought process because we screwed up that one year. Remember, we let them off the wrong times. They were coming in high. We weren't getting people to bid. And here we're going to put ourselves right in that same predicament. So if we're not going to do what you have on the floor, I respect your wishes over here, Mel, and move it up forward to beat the other option, and that probably gives us some good numbers. So.
Yeah, the only other thing I want to add to that is if we do something in the first part of February, if we can elect to have the absentee voting, is that correct, Michelle? And we can do that any time, the number of days prior to the election?
15 days prior to the
Only
election.
15, oh shoot, I thought it may hit the December through.
Well,
You know,
we're,
I've heard a couple times-
we're required to do at least 15 days. It
Oh.
can be, don't quote me on this, I believe up to 60 days. I would have to look that up.
Another point to consider as you're discussing timeframes, if you're considering bidding climates, keep in mind that I don't think the city's probably going to put a whole lot into preparing the bid documents prior to having an answer from the election. So you have to allow some time for that to happen and still hit your window for the bid timeframes.
I'm still a little concerned about the worry about timing versus really worry about doing it right. You know, and $8 million is a big deal. You know, in any city's checkbook, you know, and I applaud the people that want to do, you know, want to do it right. You know, if we want to do it right and we want to do it quick, then we just got to figure out a way how we put the effort in to make that happen. Otherwise, we're going to be arguing for the next couple of weeks about what date it should be. You know, and quite honestly, you know, we need to see what works for the voters, then say, okay, how do we get that proposal done?
I did put up on the screen too, the current funding proposal on the left, that's the money that's tied up until the answer from this. So it's not just the community proceed bonds, it's all of this too. Or community bond proceeds, I said that backwards.
And again, I personally think that waiting until the general election of 2016, where the maximum number of people are going to vote, and you're going to have a clear statement, is worth the money. But I understand the other concern.
Ryan Huber again. I'm hearing everything you guys are saying, and I want to be sensitive to making sure we maximize the vote as well. If you guys feel like you want to do it December 8th, because that's the Tuesday after, or the first Tuesday, it's not the 6th. 6th is a Sunday.
December 1st.
You can do the 1st or the 8th.
Yep.
We'll try to make it work. I can't guarantee that you're going to get all the information out to the public and have the debates that Ed is wishing to have as well. I mean, that's not that far away. But you're going to have an answer sooner. I'm trying to be amiable here.
Yep. Ryan, question to you. What's your thought process if the council would go all the way back to an April one that's been thrown out? I'm just saying, I mean, what's your thought on an April election, a special election next year? Does it really get us, I mean, getting that?
You might as well wait till November if you're going to do it.
That's sort of the answer I was looking for.
I know that I was met with a rousing no, But I think that doing it on December 1st is committing our, suicide to ourselves, because you would be just following Thanksgiving on the 26th, and you'd probably still have people that weren't back or.
Yep.
That's why when I
might
said
not
the
be in
6th, I meant the 8th, but I was
I
looking
think
at
the
2016, I was looking at.
Yeah, I think that the 8th makes sense to me. It's,
Right between the holidays.
the thing is that December is a busy month, but during the day, it's not like people are busy with holiday things. I mean, during the day, they have time to go out and vote. So I still think December 8th is a good day. Kind of is.
Why do you say that? I don't get why you are so against this every time, Mel.
Well, I tell
I
you.
mean, you're the guy that has been asking people, you and the mayor, frankly, ask for people to petition this thing to tie up $9,000 a month. I don't get why you do that.
Well, first of all, our original priority was not the pool. And I understand, and you worked it very well. I have great admiration for your political skills. But I am trying to give you an opportunity to win. When I go out in the community, I run into very few people who are for the pool. I run into a lot of people who say, well, that's not a bad thing. And then I run into many more people who say, no, we don't need a pool. We already have a pool at the rec center. We already have Hitchcock. We have other things that we should do, and they disagree on what those other things are. And I know from my political experience that when you schedule a special election where it's a standalone issue, the people you get out are the passionate people. So if you're confident that you have more passionate people for the pool than people who are passionately against it, and I think the petitions are evidence that there's a lot of people passionately against it, then fine, go ahead and hold it. But what will happen if you hold the election on November of 2016? You'll get the people who are passionate for, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, whoever the nominees are, and they will come out to the polls, and while they're there, they'll say, oh, well, there's this pool thing. That would be nice. But they're not passionate for that particular issue, and I understand what Stephanie is saying. So what I'm saying to you is, if you want to have a chance for it to pass, listen to a guy who's been through 14 elections. And I just think you're shooting yourself in the foot. I am trying to help you on this particular occasion, but if you want to have it in December, when people are distracted with other things and the passionate people are going to come out, that's fine. If you want to have it in the dead of winter and be criticized for the next 20 years if it passes, or kick yourself for the next 20 years if it fails because there was a blizzard that day, that's fine with me too. I'm just telling you from my political experience that the most voters you get are in November of a presidential year, and if you want something to pass where lots of people aren't for it but lots of people aren't against it, that's when you hold the election. So if you're absolutely confident that the ease of which people got the petitions can be overcome by your group, then God bless you.
Did you look at the petition, by the way, and the signatures on it? Did you look at the petition and the signatures on it? Because I have.
I signed the petition.
I know you did. I saw your name on there, a bunch of other teachers.
And you know why I did that? I signed because in a project this big, for the next 20 years, if we do this without a public vote, people are going to say, no, nobody wanted that pool. That was a big boondoggle. They ended up spending $1 million more or whatever with the change orders. But if it passes, then you say, well, people wanted it. Shut up.
Well, what
So
I was
I
going
think
to
the public
what I was
election's
going to say before you interrupted me was that if you would have looked at the signatures that were on there, other than just your own, you would have found, after I visited with some of those people, that some of those people signed the petition because they thought they were voting for a pool. It's how the petition is presented to them as to how they sign that or if they didn't. And so what I'm telling you is not all 455 people that signed that petition are against a pool.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying they're for an election. They're for the people having a say. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a project this big that was not in the original plan, having people have a vote. I'm a little curious as to why you're dead set against a vote.
I'm not against a vote.
Well, then why are you attacking me for being for a vote?
Done.
Well, for all the reasons that we've discussed, and I still feel if there's a basketball game that day, there's going to be elderly people that are going to the basketball game. I mean, you see it. And if they feel passionate about coming out either way, I think they're going to find a way to go vote. Jessica already said that they would allow free rides. or rights during that time period. And if Ryan and others say that we can educate, then it's their decision after that. I think we've got time, but we better start moving of getting committees together. Let's look at the current plan. If we want to stay within a construction time, then I think the December still makes some sense, because $9,000 a month to me is substantial. And so if we're not going to go the pool direction, then it's time to move on and reinvest into something else. So with all that, and I understand what you're saying, Mel, too. Obviously, the amount of people coming out in a presidential is going to be substantially more than a special election. But again, if you follow statistics, typically with a very small amount, you can get a sense of what the general idea is that the public wants. So I still feel that it's going to be a good representation either way. So I'm going to move that we set the date for December 8th, 2015 for the special election, and save the city a lot of money.
Second that.
Have a motion? Is there all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Let's do a roll call.
Barrington,
Aye.
Allen,
Aye.
Charks,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Olson,
No.
Rice,
Aye.
Tronis,
No.
Dosher.
No.
5-3.
5-3. That doesn't require a 2/3 vote, does it, Annette? Just majority vote, right?
Carl. Simple.
Simple majority, because it's carried in. So the special election will be held in on December the 8th. Okay, action on resolution number 3299, a plat of lots 1 and 2 of R.L. Decker, first edition in the west 1/2 of the southeast, 1/4 of section 29, township 103 north, range 60 west of the 5th PM, Davidson County, South Dakota.
Again, I just direct your attention that you have some background information in your packets, and just to tell you, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this plat, and it's scheduled to be heard by the county in the near future.
Can you tell me the difference between 3299 and 3300? Aren't those the two that look exactly alike? Yeah, Decker. They're both Decker. Oh, they're both pictures inside.
I don't know. I don't have what you guys got.
It's different lots. Are they both? Oh, you know what? I have the wrong picture. Oh, so I don't download immediately upon receiving. Okay.
Move to
never mind.
approve Resolution 3299.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Action on resolution number 3300, a plat of lot 51 of Maui Farms, second edition, a subdivision of the southeast 1/4 of section 31, township 104 north, range 60 west of the 5th PM, city of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
Again, this was presented to the Planning Commission, and they did recommend approval of it. As you can kind of see, it's kind of filling in with the houses up.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor, I'll abstain.
Motion carried. Action of resolution number 3301, a resolution directing offer sale of surplus real property and directing notice of offer to abutting landowners.
Any questions? This is 3301.
3301.
That's the lot purchased by the city some number of years ago from South Dakota Railroad Commission.
lies to the west of the depot and just prior to Spectrum. Statutory authority gives authority to sell that for appraised value directly to the budding landowners without having to go through the.
And then you mentioned, Carl, that have the two owners that are each side work with each other. Is that going to happen?
I
Or?
don't know, but both are interested, and I would suggest, I've already suggested that to them, that they
Get together.
meet both of their needs if they can do so, rather than one trying to freeze out the other or whatever, I don't know. Whether it happens or not, will be up to them.
So when you say both parties, you're talking about Depot and Tom and
That's
Rainey
correct.
Scott.
That's correct. I'd be hopeful to know somehow.
Move approval of resolution 3301.
Any discussions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action on Resolution 3302, a resolution setting date for a public sale of surplus real property and directing publication of notice of public sale.
Okay, they just cut across the line here. This is the Northridge lot and platted this is just generic sale of surplus property. And I sent the notice to the paper to make sure it got there 10 days before the first.
Move to approve resolution number 3302.
Second.
Generic.
We've talked about this one.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Second reading and adoption, ordinance number 2523, 2016 annual appropriation ordinance.
Any questions? Nothing's really changed
Questions,
from the
no
last
discussion?
time.
There were a few changes from the last time you saw it. We added the additional revenue that came in from the growth. The contingency was reduced to offset the attorney budget. And then there was 3 changes made on the Corn Palace budget to be closer to what actuals were that cut a little bit of that back yet.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Comment, I think the budget process was way more transparent or visible. And what we ended up with this final spreadsheet system that kind of came out today, if we can use that as a template and start there next year knowing which departments, all their revenue, their expenses, their contingencies, and whether we're spending money out of contingency, I think makes it very much more visible and easy to explain. The concern, and I'm going to vote for this, but the concern I have is we are spending, well, the budget review that we had from Endorf, Lurk, and Olson showed that we had 64% of our operating funds held in reserve as an amount, and if we were a county, that would be illegal. But as a city, you can do that, so we were holding tons of money, of which we're spending $3-some-odd million this year out of reserve. And my caution is that when we get to next year's budget, that $3-some-odd million won't be there. And so the amount of projects and other things to look at is going to have to be funded by what gets brought in and what we can spend, and we shouldn't have 64% sitting there of money that we've taken in taxpayer money or second penny or first penny or whatever, however we generated the money and not spending it. I think the process made that a lot more visible. My only concern is that the budget process might be a little, I won't call it more difficult, but it will be very much more transparent, and there won't be that money to throw around, if I want to use that term, when we go into the 2016-17 budget. That's my comment on it.
I know I pointed this out last time, but this unassigned fund balance is where in previous years you used to see the entire reserves in there, and then down here you'd see a retained balance. Now you're just seeing what's being used for this year's budget, and that would be all of your general operation budgets. Your enterprise, ooh, that looks really big. Your enterprise funds are going to be listed here, and to find that money used to balance, you're going to have to take what your total available is. Well, yeah, there you go. There's your surplus, and then that was your beginning cash. So you can see what happens with the difference. You know, we still added, you know, $120,000 to water. We're spending quite a bit out of sewer. If you remember, we're doing the force main, but we've increased our rate, so that'll build back up. And then we have the Corn Palace Fund, and as I said during budget, that's one that we have to continue to have significant discussions over, or in 2 years, you're going to be using $700,000 of general fund for that budget as well. So I just want to make sure everybody sees where to find that information on the ordinance now, because it is different than what you've seen in the previous years.
Have we talked about another work session?
Yes, we were waiting till this is finalized.
Oh,
So,
great.
Yep, that is our next session.
Any further discussion? Is there any public comment? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion? Is there any public comment? Roll call.
Dosher,
Aye.
Tronis,
Aye.
Rice,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Charts,
Aye.
Allen,
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Adoption approved. First reading ordinance number 2521, an ordinance to amend bid number 2 by modification of district table from the August 17th, 2015 City Council meeting.
I think this should be tabled indefinitely until we know what the outcome of the election is, because it's an ordinance, and an ordinance is so specific in the law. We should just do that.
But isn't tabling it indefinitely to kill it?
No, because the council meets year-round, whereas the legislature comes to an end in.
Well, what about we have the election on the 8th?
How about,
Yeah.
December 21st is the next meeting after.
Move to table till December 21st.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. First reading of ordinance number 2524, supplemental appropriation.
Can I start off by just saying something for Randy Dosher's benefit? The reason why this will not be done as a contingency is because since it's within the enterprise fund, we want those funds to come from the enterprise fund, so we're not using the contingency
Good.
general fund transfer.
Can it?
So I just thought I'd save a step there and answer your question.
Good.
But can we take it out of contingency if we want?
Well, if we do it out of contingency, you're not really,
He's giving me a hard time.
you're not really addressing the issue because it's just budget authority. So this is coming out of the enterprise fund.
It does.
This is for the Spruce Street utility project that we're doing in conjunction of the, rebuilding of the project. We added a water and sewer connection main going north on Wisconsin from Spruce Street, which we didn't have part of the plan. It should have been part of the plan from the beginning, but it got overlooked. We've already had one new user that wants to hook up to this new water line and sewer line already, and we told them they had to wait until we put in this new line. We also had to relocate 6 fire hydrants out on the project because they were in a location that would have been a conflict with the new sidewalk that is being put in. So instead of having the contractor do that work, we had city staff do that work to save some costs. And then we found some things out in the field that we needed to make some modifications to the water. So that's what this is for.
The one thing I want to point out that came out in the meeting this morning was that if we weren't to have done the utility relocation now or hookups now, we would have ended up tearing into a new road when that needed to be done. So this is the better way to do it now, so we get to maintain that quality surface that we just spent all the money and time diverting traffic all summer to accomplish. So
I'm going to move to put ordinance 2524 on first reading.
It's tough for you to do
Well,
that.
after 10:30.
Discussion? Any more discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Pardon?
2524.
2524.
24. Oh, I said 24.
24. Action to approve engineering agreement for the Lake Mitchell Fishing Pier.
Sure. I wasn't here when you had the discussion, but I believe council approved designing a new fishing pier near the Sportsman's Club.
Yes.
And I found an engineering agreement on my desk dated February that was signed by the engineering firm, was never signed by the city. So there hasn't been any work done on this yet. We're trying to get it moved forward now.
Now, this is where that area right across from the boat dock, just kind of to the call it west.
Right where the new shelter.
Pheasants Forever
Right,
put a shelter in.
yeah, exactly, and that was part of our agreement, that we would put a nice fishing pier there if they come with a nice shelter. And
Right.
they got a really neat place to park and to walk up.
And there's either 65 or 70,000 in the budget in 15 this year for this.
Okay.
And I do want to point out, I know that Dusty's not here, so I don't mean to speak for him, but I know the council has asked him, or at least individual councilors have asked a couple times during meetings, and he has reported to you that he wasn't getting a response from SPN. Well, this is there was a gap there, so that is why.
Right.
Move to approve.
The only question I have is, are these prices still good?
When I talked to them last week, I told them I found the agreement, and they said, well, we've got to adjust our prices. I said, well, it's on the agenda Monday, so do it quick. And he called back and said, okay, we'll live with them. So it was discussed.
Before you sit back, Ullman and then the new road that's going out at ProBuild, they're working on it really well, it seems like, but are we gonna beat the snow?
Well, we'll beat the snow. Usually our asphalt plant stays open until about mid-November. Commercial's last schedule, which was today, is that they plan to come to town about October 5th, and that's a floating schedule, understand, October 5th. Also, in ProBuild's development, there needs to be a tie-in in this same area, so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and pave it and then rip it up.
Right.
So we're trying to balance all that. We did ask our street superintendent to smooth it out a little bit, so.
We got a motion in a second.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action to approve capital grant funding agreement between Palace Transit and South Dakota Department of Transportation.
We were approved for funding for 2 new buses. We budgeted in 2016 for $35,600, I believe, and this will be only $27,100. So our bids came in less than what we were expecting.
That's great. Move to approve.
Discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Executive session, entertaining motion for the city council to enter into executive session as permitted by SDCL 1-25-2, discussing the qualifications, competence, performance, character, or fitness of any public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee.
Second.
Carried.
Well, missed it by an hour and a half.